So I guess a little background of kind of why we developed this experience center is that, we have all of these different brands, right? So we deal in window treatments, we deal in lighting control, and home technologies like AV equipment and things like that. So we really wanted a space to show how all of these things work cohesively together and kind of create that environment that people are looking for. So that's really what this showroom is about. And if we could jump to the Zoom chat there, we could pull it up. And I kind of want to start with just a little tour of the showroom. So this is what we call our decorative gallery. And it's just full of kind of a different variety of decorative fixtures for whatever reason they have, some advanced LED technology in them, or they're just, have some really cool natural materials, things like that. Just a place to kind of inspire people. But behind that lab, you're going to see a little door behind Kate and Ashley there, and that is our architectural lighting lab. And that's developed to kind of show people the full spectrum of the LED market, and really kind of educate people on why one fixture costs more than another one, and kind of all the different trim options and things like that. So it's a really important space for us. But if we jump to the front-facing camera, you're going to see we have these big windows in the front, and that is our shading lab. And in the foreground, you're going to see a little living room display. And this living room display was created to have a really immersive experience for clients and kind of break down the different levels of LED technology and kind of what's out there. Lighting is one of those things where it's really hard to describe. It's kind of like describing like a smell or something like that, but it's really easy to show. So if we jump into demo mode here, you're going to kind of see the space transform a little bit. And this is where we kind of sit down with builders and architects and their clients and hash out what level of technology is right for the job. And our CEO likes to say that lighting is no longer a commodity, it's a specification. And that's because there's so many choices that need to be made before you even get to buy the fixture, right? And in this space, we start at the very beginning. So what's something that someone has to decide now that they didn't have to in the past? And that's the easiest of those questions is color temperature. So when we're talking about color temperature, it's important to put it into perspective for people, right? And what the industry has done is it's essentially standardized on two main color temperatures. What we're looking at now is 3,000 Kelvin, and that is meant to replicate a halogen light source. Now, if we jump to 2,700 Kelvin here, you're going to see the space warm up a little bit, right? And that is made to represent 2,700 Kelvin. And so those are the main choices, right? There's a bunch of different temperatures in between these two, but you can pretty much get a fixture in any one of these two color temperatures. It has nothing to do whether the house is traditional or modern or anything like that. It's totally personal preference. So it's a really important experience for people to see this color effect on a whole space, right? You're not just pointing a fixture at the wall and saying, which one do you like better, right? It's important to see how it affects the entire environment. Now, one thing that's different with LEDs that different than what we all grew up with is that if we go back to 3,000 Kelvin here, and then we dim it down. So we're going to dim this fixture down to 50%. What's interesting here is that the color temperature does not change, but the light output does. And that's very different than an incandescent light. And when you dim an incandescent light, not only does the light output lessen, but it warms in tone. And it creates this really kind of cozy feeling, right? And that's something that a traditional LED does not do, and that's different. And some people need to be aware of that, and it's fine for some clients, but other clients, that's not acceptable, right? So how can you change that? And one thing that you can do is you can use a tunable fixture. So this is kind of a step up from a basic LED. And what this is going to do is give you the ability to inject color into any output that you want. So as you can see here, this room will warm up in tone a little bit, right? Now there's different levels to this, right? The first most basic level is something called dim to warm. A lot of manufacturers provide this level of technology. They all call it something a little bit different, if it's like fade to warm or dim to warm or something like that, but it's just a buzzword to be on the lookout for. And basically what it means is that it replicates that incandescent experience. So it's a set curve, and as you dim down the fixture, a second set of LEDs pulls up those warmer tones. Now, that level of control for you guys doesn't mean anything special in terms of like wiring or infrastructure, right? But the step up from that is something called tunable white. And tunable white means you can control color temperature and light output independently. And for a lot of the fixtures on the market, that now means different infrastructure in the home, right? You're typically using 0 to 10 wiring as opposed to standard 2-wire Romex, right? And what does that mean for controlling the fixtures, right? So if you have a kitchen that has, let's say, 6 switch legs in it, which is typical, and you're using a tunable white fixture, those 6 dimmers on the wall now turn into 12 dimmers, right? And that's not really acceptable for a lot of residences. So, you know, is that a time to have a conversation about a control system, like a lighting control system? What does that mean for the rest of the infrastructure for the house? So these choices really have to be addressed before, you know, drywall goes up and gypsum goes up, right? Because this is going to affect the wires that need to be run. It's going to affect the devices that control all the fixtures. So some of these questions, you know, if someone finds out about this later in the game and they can't do it because the infrastructure of the house doesn't provide for it, that can be a bummer. So it's important to kind of hit these things head on in the design process. Now, the next thing I'm going to do here is kind of put these color temperatures into a little bit more of a perspective. So the fixtures that we have in this display are networked, and they're kind of the highest end fixtures, and they can do everything on the market. So the reason we use this is it allows us to show all the different levels, right? And what this fixture can do is actually it geolocates you. So it takes into account longitude and latitude, and it adjusts to the color temperature of the sun. So as we, you know, think about what the sun does every day, it starts in the morning really warm, and then in the afternoon it gets these really energized color temperatures, and then in the evening it warms up again, right? And this is what people are talking about when they're talking about circadian rhythm and human-centric lighting and things like that. So what you're going to see here is a little 30-second show of what the sun has done in Boston and what it will do in Boston later today. And, you know, this has been proven to affect metabolism and mood and energy levels and all of these different physiological aspects of the human condition. But, you know, what we're really talking about with clients is how it makes the room feel and how it makes the space look, right? So an example of why you might want to use something like this is if, you know, you have a brownstone and you have 2 windows on either side, and you have complete manufactured light on the interior of the space. So if you're walking around the interior of the space and you go to the exterior facing room with windows and natural light coming in, that space is going to feel very different, right? So this is a great technology to kind of pull that natural light into the space and have it throughout the whole residence. But what you see here is you see, you know, our shades came up, we have natural light coming in through our windows, and we're back at 3,000 Kelvin. Now, if we switch this to natural daylight, you're going to see that space transform a little bit and become a lot more uniform, right? And that's really important because it's in line with what's going on outside. And at some point in the day, the sun is in fact 3,000 Kelvin, right? So that initial scene that we just saw would look really normal. But like if we switch to 2,700 Kelvin now, you're going to see those differences.
Are you guys picking up the subtle difference a little bit? It's hard to do on the video, but these cameras, they actually worked hard to get these cameras to try to pick that up for the remote demo. But if you're standing in that room, the first time I saw it, and I saw the non-outdoor light in the space, open the shades, and then they tune the room to the outdoor. It's a physical feeling. Like the light just comes in, and it's a relaxing feeling. And that's where the demo is pretty powerful. It's good here. But you are picking it up. That's great.
Yeah, I would equate it to like when you go see a movie and then you walk outside and like you feel that sunlight on you. It just feels nice, right? Like that's what this technology gives you. And just to show you again, if we switch to 3,000 Kelvin, right? It's a really powerful change on the space. And you know, what these fixtures can also do is something that you guys have probably heard of called RGB, so red, green, blue, and that is the ability to change color. So Kate, if you could put us back in demo mode and go to the living room. Now, color is, something that's not necessarily for everyday use, but we've included it in this presentation for a very specific reason. So if we shift through some colors here, we're going to end on a very specific scene. And the reason this scene is important is because these fixtures are networked, right? They operate through radio frequency control. We actually have individual control over every single fixture. These are all run together on one run of Romex, so it's less wiring, right? It's no proprietary programming because we're using a specific control system, but it allows us to create this hybrid scene, right? So the food on the table still looks appetizing. The artwork still looks like it should. But you can still tell that there's something special going on. Now, the ability to change color with LEDs has been around for a long time, right? But historically, if I wanted to be able to change color temperature, light output level, color, I would need to run 8 wires to every single one of these fixtures and then run them back to like a DMX control board that you see when you go to a play. And then when someone has a dinner party and they want to use their color changing lights, they have to hire a DJ to come out and put in proprietary programming to do what they want to do. And we used to do that, but that's not something that we have to do anymore, right? Because we're using, a fixture that's in line with a control system. So, all of these different levels of technology are great, but they're not great if it's not easy to use, right? It's not great if it can't be implemented into the house easily. So what I'm going to show you here is a little example of what a lighting control interface might look like. And basically what we've done here is we've segmented out our showroom, which you can imagine would be like different rooms in your house. And if we click on the living room, and you go in, you can see how we have digital keypads, and in our physical space, we actually have keypads on the wall. So a lot of time what happens is we're having everyday use items on the wall, like, all off by the garage and things like that. But we have digital keypads that are stored for special occasions. So like we had a client that really liked, he wanted to throw this crazy Halloween party every year. And he only used that button for his Halloween party, right? So that just lives digitally. He doesn't have to interact with it every day at all, but it's there for when he wants it. So that kind of shows how you can really streamline, ease of use with something like this. And if we want to go to the gallery, we could kind of just cycle through some scenes here and show the difference between like 2700 Kelvin maybe. Our whole showroom is tied into this system, and it's a really good example of how easy and flexible it actually makes a lighting design and a lighting control design. And these are things that we walk through with clients, right? Because it's pretty powerful to see, how light deployed properly can really affect a space and change a space. And what we've been talking about so far is manufactured light and artificial light, right? But when we're talking about lighting design, we talk in layers. And the 4 layers are natural light, ambient light, so you can get from one side of the room to the other, task lighting, so things like under cabinet light or pin spots, something for a specific purpose, and then decorative lighting, which is that layer on top, which isn't necessarily for a specific purpose other than to just look good, right? But it's important to take into account how natural light plays into the situation and what are the tools you can use to mitigate natural light in a space. So if we could jump back to the PowerPoint.
Before we jump off this, a couple quick questions. So you show clients a range of fixtures, and if we use the good, better, best, how would you describe the good fixture? Is that the pick one fixed color and is warm the better and tunable the best? Walk me through those 3 good, better, best options.
Yeah, a basic LED fixture, a good fixture doesn't have to be expensive, but it does have to have a good quality of light, so a high CRI. So basically what CRI means is how well the fixture renders color. I'm sure you guys have seen like a compact fluorescent bulb, and when you walk into a room lit with that, Reds don't look red, they look gray. It's hard to tell the difference between red and green, things like that. So it's important to pick a fixture that has a really high CRI value, regardless of whether you're getting it at Home Depot or it's specified by the architect or whatever it is. It's a really important spec to pay attention to.
Is that your good? Just
That's
getting
good.
a good starting point?
Yeah, that's good.
Okay.
Just good quality light. Better is some form of adjustability, whether it's dim to warm or tunable white. You still get high CRI values is something that you really want to look for. And then best is a fixture like this where you get a full range of tunability and there's some network control involved with it.
And these are all custom builders, so they're dealing with high net worth folks. Roughly, price for a good fixture, price for a better fixture, price for the best fixture, roughly.
Yeah, I would say a good fixture, you're probably looking at $150.
Okay.
A mid-range fixture, you're going to be in the $250, $300 range. And then a high-end fixture, you're probably not going to find one for less than $400.
Okay.
And it's
it
probably
goes up to.
Yeah, it's probably going to top out at like $1,200.
Okay. And those retail prices.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Great. Okay. All
Yep.
right.
Sure.
Excuse me, you said it's a can line, right?
These are all architectural fixtures we're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah. A architectural recess light.